Now, as we go through this, we're going to be reading some sentences. What are some questions the story we read might answer for us? What might be some who questions it could answer for us? So if it's called Tricking the Tiger and it's plays based on folk tales, what might be a who question?
Who wrote the book?
One could be who wrote the book. What's another question we could have though? If it's Tricking the Tiger, what's another who question? Who? Great, that's good. What about a where question?
Where it will be.
Where it will be. Where did they? Song, where did they? If it's about tricking the tiger, where did they?
Where did they choose them?
Good, perfect, that's good. Okay, what about a what question? Jay? What happened, exactly. Lucy, what about a why question?
Why are they tricking the tiger?
Perfect, this is great, guys. This is really good. So why did they trick the tiger? Now, we don't know the answer to any of those, do we? But as we read the text, we might find out more about it. Okay, now, we know a little bit about the text. It could be about folk tales. And what was another way of saying folk tales again? Folk meant stories, and stories about life, and about folk were. What did folk mean? People. Good girl. Good girl. So folk, I meant people. Okay. Well, let's have a look at the first story. Okay, so the first story, girls. What's its title? Zara, do you want to say it? No. If you'd all just take some time to look at it. But Zara, would you mind in a minute reading out what the first bit says? But you guys can talk about it first.
The witch's fire.
Thanks, Ross. The Witch's Fire. So we're going to read this play. It's about the witch's fire. What are some things that the story might tell us? So in your mind, imagine a witch's fire. What do you see, Lucy? The witch's fire. Yeah, and what's it made of? Is it a gas fire? So it's a witch's fire, and is it a gas fire in a house or?
No. That's witch's fire is in my mind. I imagine is witch's fire and it's green. The color is green.
It's green, you got. And what's burning? What do you see burning?
In forest.
It's in a forest. And what do you see? You're there and you're looking around the fire. What do you see? You're watching the witches. What do you see?
Witches get burned. Fires around them.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what it looks like. Yep. Okay. Well, let's look at what else is on the page. How would you describe what else is on the page, Lucy? How's the page? Because none of the teachers can see the page. How is the page broken up?
The page is have dot points.
And what are some of the dot points? What's the heading above the dot points?
Place and some animals.
Okay, and what, Jay, do you want to add something to that?
On the page is write about in when and where and who is in the story.
It does, it says exactly that. It doesn't say it in those words, so Jay, you've said it in your own words, haven't you, which was really good. And it says, you know, who's there, where, and it also says, yeah, when, and it also talks about, what does that word props mean? So look underneath it and see some of the things that are underneath it. props. So what are some of the things that are mentioned? So what's one thing that's mentioned underneath it? Girl, that's great. So one thing that's mentioned is witch's hat. What's another thing that's mentioned there, Lucy?
Witch's fire.
The witch's fire. And what's it made of?
Logs, sticks, red.
That's red cellophane. That's a long word there. Yeah. To represent. Good.
Flames and coals.
Perfect. Good girl. That was good. So the witch's fire, logs, sticks, red cellophane to represent the flames and the coals. So you can see it, can't you? You can see there are going to be these logs and there are these red cellophane. And that's that paper that you can see through. You know, they cut it out to be like flames. And so they're trying to really show what the fire would look like. So what do you think props are? Well, what are props? What do you think of, Fran? So it's things like the witches' hats. That's good. Do you want to say that? Your friend, do you want to say that? Do you want to hear what Jay said again?
Yeah.
You want to say
The things in the story.
So these are the things that you need to make the play. Like if you're going to have a fire, you've got to have some logs, don't you? You know, and some things that look like flames. So you've got to have things like that. Okay, let us go over the page and look at the play. Now, when you look at the first 2 pages there, how is it organised? How is it set out?
They put there like you read the first narrator 1, narrator 2, and that's all the way to go down.
So all the way down, we've got things like narrator 1, narrator 2, and then underneath that Jay, we've got witches, and then underneath that we've got
Villager.
good girl, the villagers. So we've got the narrator, narrator 1, narrator 2, the witches, the villagers.
And then villager 1, 2,
Good.
3.
Perfect. Villager 1, 2 and 3. In a play, who is the narrator? Let's look at what the narrator says. Lucy, would you be able to start off reading what the narrator says?
Yeah. Long, long ago, the people
In Bougainville
Bougainville's
district.
district had no fire.
Okay, could you stop there, please? That was great. That was excellent. So long, long ago, the people in the Bougainville district had no fire. What's the narrator telling us?
It's one place and it's not fire.
Okay, so the narrator is telling us the place and there's no fire. Let's just look at what narrator 2 says. Well, Aisha, yes, do you want to read out what narrator 2 says?